and I will ruin it again.
Hey!
Oh!
B! You got to remember, we start with the loud noises.
Skippity pop!
We don't like our audience.
Nah.
Just scare them away.
Listen, it's a surprise.
Surprise, we're back.
We don't always do a balcony time, so it's a nice little, surprise when we do.
Sometimes it gets too late.
Like
Time runs
the
out.
Dos Equis guy. It's not always balcony time, but when it is, it's the
It's
best.
balcony time.
Yeah, I lost my
What it
thread
is,
there.
you're on the balcony. Gentlemen, we all watched a movie.
We did.
Mm-hmm. It was good.
Well,
It
you
was so nice.
you didn't roll to see if it was good, so we don't know.
You didn't roll before the movie started? I brought my dice. I did not.
I no.
I did it on my phone, so it doesn't count.
We all went and watched Dungeons and Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves
Mhm.
in the desperate hope that it would be, at least 800% better than the original D&D movie.
Sure.
And it was definitely much better.
I had a pretty low bar going. I wanted to have fun watching the movie,
Yeah.
and actually, what I got was more than a fun movie, but a pretty decent movie. Actually, like across the board, it's pretty decent. Like,
TLDR, no spoilers. Like as a movie, this is a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. As a fun action romp, solid 8 or 9 out of 10. If you like D&D, it's a 9 to 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like I would not have expected much more than what they gave us.
Yeah. No, I went in here thinking, so I wouldn't even say low expectations. I expected to have fun because there were going to be some D&D references in it. It has a decent cast, and I'm thinking, okay, the CG budget looks pretty good. I heard that there's some good practical effects in there as well. So I went in here thinking like, okay, I'm going to enjoy myself. But I didn't just enjoy myself. I watched a great movie.
Mhm.
I loved it. I'm fairly critical of movies. I like to tear them apart, even if I love them. Right. For instance, we had a recent Discord call between all of us while we were playing Necess the other night, and talked about John Wick. Right, which is a series that I love. I wouldn't call it guilty pleasure. It's just I find it's pleasure. I love those movies, despite all of their misgivings. I really enjoy those movies, but I could nitpick those movies to death all day long. In this case, I can't. I honestly, it was pure enjoyment. I have really no major criticisms for it. Sure, I think that there are little things they could have done to make it better, potentially. But maybe, right? Like, I can't think of any definitive thing that I would say I'd rather do this than what I saw.
I can, but
Sure.
it was actually funny and good enough that like they're minor.
Yeah.
Like if it was a different movie, some of the things that I didn't like about it would have hit me harder.
Mhm.
But again, going into this with just bated breath, especially after everything that happened with Wizards and Hasbro's and knowing D&D movies in the past, like I was not expecting it to be as entertaining and as fun of a romp as it was.
Yeah.
And it was.
It was legitimately funny. Like, it wasn't just us laughing at D&D jokes. It wasn't just an audience of non-D&D players seeing something funny happen on screen. Everybody in the theater laughed at multiple points in the movie, and like not chuckles, like there was solid bouts of laughter amongst all of the watchers of this movie. And it wasn't like a packed theater by any means. There were only about half full.
It's been out for 5 days.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
And it's, a Tuesday night, a relatively late Tuesday night. So it wasn't like a packed theater by any means, but everybody was laughing at that movie. But not only was it funny, there were several emotional parts in that movie, and really well done. Yeah. I was very surprised at how how it gripped me emotionally, especially there's a scene toward the end. No spoilers here, but there's a scene toward the end where I was like, I put a couple things together and I'm like, oh shit, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That justified the scene. The only criticism that I may have had walking out of this movie justified that scene. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. So it felt like Now, if you're going to see this movie because you're a fan of D&D, this felt like a bunch of people playing D&D, right?
Mm-hmm.
They even had the OP character who showed up for 3 weeks, but then his schedule changed and he had to fucking leave.
Yeah.
Because he spent 4 weeks metagaming and getting his fucking character OP as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And then his schedule changed, so he only made it to 3 sessions. But later, guys. So, like, I mean, right down to seeing some of the monsters, the mimic and the fucking owlbear was done just tremendously.
Yeah.
We've seen those in the previews, so no spoilers there, but there's a couple of scenes with the owlbear, and then just the way it moves is very cool. I loved it.
And at times super comedic.
It's super comedic. And then just I just want to lean on the druid for a second, in a particular, like her animal transitions, how they did that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And if you're, again, a fan of D&D, or if you're just coming into 5e as your first experience, Faerun is where you live in 5e. And this, like, we heard him, Baldur's Gate. There's Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
There's Neverwinter, right?
Stuff,
going up and down the Sword Coast. We saw the map, seeing Neverwinter, or 10 Towns, rather. Like, I just ran a 10 Towns campaign last year. The prison, there's a prison
north of Kelvin's Cairn.
Yep,
up there.
and it's excellent.
It's a little surreal.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
surreal seeing something mainstream with all these D&D nods. You're like, Forgotten Realms and Faerun, it's been around for 40, 50 years.
Forever.
And finally it's hitting the big mainstream. Yeah.
To think that our parents were dealing with like a satanic panic, and now there's
Here it is. So spoiler free overall, I think the thing that was done best is they managed to find this tipping balance point of clear nods to things that happen in D&D and are D&D related, and showing them in such a way that an audience that is not familiar with them can still enjoy them.
Yeah.
There's a particular scene about the middle of the movie where they go to use a certain ritual spell that the moment they mentioned it, I started laughing out loud because I knew immediately it was going to happen. And then it happened, and the audience that clearly didn't play D&D were all laughing their asses off because of what happened. And just being able to see that, like, it pans out, you're like, what's coming because you've played D&D. And then they do it so well that, everybody gets it and it's funny. I fucking loved it.
Yeah, and there are layers to all those jokes, because there's the top layer where anybody can enjoy that because that was just a legitimately funny scene.
Yeah.
There's the next layer where you've just gotten into D&D and something funny just happened because D&D happened just now.
Yeah.
And then there's like DM level of I've read all of the books front to back and I know all of the spell names by heart. I could literally list you in alphabetical order the monster manual from 3rd edition. And there are jokes for that person in there too.
It was really nice, especially in a lot of the spell battles. See, like the moment they're firing up the spells, just instant recognition of what the spell was. They didn't even take the risk of making up any spells. I'm like, I know all of those.
Yeah.
Those are in D&D.
Yep.
They literally said Mordenkainen.
Yeah,
right.
Mordenkainen's in there. For those of you in the know, they have references to Elminster. And they have a painting that I'm almost positive was a Volothamp Godarm of Volo's Guide, if you're familiar with 5th edition. All kinds of name drops and stuff like that. And, I can't view this movie through a lens of someone who doesn't know D&D. I don't know how much of the proper noun dump was much. Few of the reviews I said that the beginning seemed clunky and a little bit off tempo, but then it very quickly picks up. So that is good to know. Like I didn't have that problem because
I didn't either.
I just didn't notice it.
Yeah.
But that is something to know. But yeah, knowing that one of the head writers, we found out, what was his name again?
John Francis Daly.
John Francis Daly. He was one of the kids in Freaks and Geeks.
He was
They
the
played D&D.
younger brother in Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah.
He was an assistant doctor also in Bones. He was in Bones for a while.
Good to know.
other stuff like that. But he's primarily a writer. Like he started in a few things, but he's primarily a writer and director these days. He's done quite a few things.
What was his name in Freaks and Geeks? That's actually going to drive me nuts. There was Lindsay Weir. He was the Weir family. He's the younger brother to Lindsay Weir, who's essentially the main character of the show.
Remember. Francis John. No, you just said his name was John Francis.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Damn it. That's going to be.
I watched a few interviews with the cast before the movie came out. One of them particularly is like, what are your experiences with D&D? And most of them hadn't even played. A lot of them knew about it. Some of them had played. And then having watched that, and then after the fact, a lot of the cast and crew were like, this game needs to be played in schools. Like this game needs to be played by everyone. It's fantastic. I'm sure they probably got a chance to actually play some D&D to have that there. But yeah, it was so well done. Even the like players finding methods of dealing with difficult situations that are thinking outside the box.
Like there are good instances of that.
What I viewed more as a DM NPC, the character who showed up, like was a badass and then left. Like you could view that in two lenses. Yeah. Like the guy who came, he knows what he's doing. He made a meta character, played for a bit and then left. Or like a DM NPC that I'm here to help you in a situation, but I don't want to overshadow your role playing. Yeah. So he's only going to show up for a little bit. But yeah, it also, when I went into the movie, I told Adam, like, look, for me, the best D&D movie that's ever been made was the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Watch that movie as if those people are playing a sci-fi D&D game, and you'll get what I mean. Because it was fantastic watching it through that lens. And this, to me, felt like a fantasy Guardians of the Galaxy, even down to the humor.
Just going to bring that up when you were done talking. I swear to God, it's like, it honestly has Guardians vibes. It's like a fantasy Guardians. I was literally going to say that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's good to know. Like, I was really on the fence. I decided, if you're not in the know, Wizards and Hasbro's have pulled some shit recently. We've talked about it a little bit. But I was going to go see this movie because it was made by Paramount. All this was announced for the most part before the big hubbub. And I don't want D&D mainstream kind of stuff to falter. Yeah. Right. So this was probably the last money I'm going to be giving Hasbro Wizards for a while. But as a movie itself, just reviewing it, like, I think most people are going to like this. This seems to me like a movie that a preteen or a kid, it's one of those movies they'd watch on repeat. Yes. Right. It's good enough and solid enough and cozy and comfortable and stable enough just to, have it.
Honestly, dude, you guys brought up a good point with tying it in with Guardians of the Galaxy, and that, like, if you liked Guardians of the Galaxy for more than just Marvel characters, then you'll probably really enjoy this movie.
Yeah. There's a big found family aspect to that. And that plays, like, I mean, a that huge role.
Critical role.
It plays, it plays a huge role just in our millennial generation and in Gen Z. Found family is a big deal, just as in a societal idea, right? Yeah. But it's a huge deal in D&D gaming and in gaming communities. So, like. Yeah, like
that's us.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You know,
I spend more time with you guys than I do my family by like many times. Yeah.
On top of that, there were certain scenes, action fighting scenes or cinematography scenes that I really enjoyed. Yeah. To the point where, like, they stole the show for me. There's a particular scene near the beginning revolving around the druid and in an escape scene, without giving too much spoilers, that although the CG wasn't top notch, it doesn't matter, because the way they shot this 3D scene with, a continuous shot and the way they shot it, I really enjoy it. I was like, that was really, really cool. Like, if anything's going to make you want to play a druid, it's being able to pull off what just happened there.
Totally.
There are some stupid grognard nitpicks. Some of the things that happen in the movie you cannot do in 5th edition. Then again, a lot of those things that happen can be done in previous editions. And this wasn't 5th edition D&D the movie. I actually watched a video of Ed Greenwood, the creator of the Forgotten Realms, talking about the movie, and he had a handful of minor nitpicks and stated thoroughly and repeatedly, these are minor nitpicks. He enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, much like any good D&D session, man, and sometimes you're like, hey, can I do this? It's like, no, but yeah,
really cool.
That's a really cool idea. Let's go for it, man. Yeah, I'll allow it,
Now, there were some weird power level issues throughout the movie, right? Like,
And to be fair, that's even D&D. You start off with a bunch of 2nd, 3rd level characters, and by the end of the movie, they're contending with minimum 18th level characters in an hour and a half. That's kind of how 5th edition D&D goes, right? Before too
That's
long,
actually kinda true,
suddenly
yeah.
everybody's
That's
14th
fair.
level. You don't know what
Yeah.
happened. Like 2 weeks have passed in game.
Yeah.
There's also definitely a couple of spots in the movie where like, oh shit, they just rolled a crit. Like
Yeah.
whoever's
Yeah.
like playing it, just rolled a crit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though show stealer, Fat Dragon. Just saying it. Fat Dragon is life.
Fortunately, Fat Dragon's in the trailer, so that's not too spoilery.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sticking to things that I know that are there. Yeah.
Yeah. I was not familiar with him in Forgotten Realms lore, but it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I really appreciated, not spoiling. There's a surprise guest when Holga the barbarian goes to meet her ex.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes from this comedic scene to immediately heartwarming.
Yeah.
Touchful. You're like, you're not allowed to pull off this level of smooth transition between funny to like emotional.
For
How
real.
dare you be good at this, right?
Yeah, dude.
And no, that was fantastic.
And then the next scene is potentially one of the funniest scenes.
Yep.
Of the movie. Oh God.
Yep.
Well, after they met the guy and left the town.
is where they went to the graveyard.
The graveyard.
Yeah. Holy
We'll
shit.
leave it at that.
Yeah, that's too much.
My God, yeah.
God damn it. Oh, it's so good. No, okay. So, ruminating a little bit, I do have one, I think probably major criticism of the movie is they mention Neverwinter, and a good chunk of the movie talks about Neverwinter, or is Neverwinter adjacent, and they didn't talk about Waterdavian creatures. That is an absolute failure. Like if these guys knew D&D through and through, there would have been a Waterdavian creature joke or some kind of nod, and there wasn't.
kind of nod.
And honestly, I was expecting it the whole fucking movie, and it didn't deliver. And I'm not actually upset, but like
This is a stretch. But early in the movie, they do show 2 juvenile rust monsters in the rafters.
Okay.
That's not a Waterdavian.
I know
like, if
that-
anything,
That's the only solace that I took, is I was like, okay, well, I guess on that rafter in the staircase, sure. But I was a little disappointed, to be honest, that they didn't talk about the Waterdavian creatures.
final thoughts without spoilers. Go into this movie knowing that the narrative and the plot are extremely safe and stable. They're not attempting anything new. The pacing is off in a few areas. They notably tried to fit one chunk of the movie revolving around the lead up to and the dealing with the dragon. They go into the Underdark. That was it was a stark how obviously cutting room floor editing, they had to probably cut a lot of footage. To the point where they really whipped through that whole section of the adventure way too quick. Like it is almost like you're wasting so much potential by saying, oh, we're going to the Underdark. And then in a throwaway line, they say it'll be a day's march down there. They're down there. Like a 5-minute scene happens and then they're out of the Underdark without really anything iconic about the Underdark, minus one set of creatures for a joke that was pretty funny.
So
that's the kind of pacing thing where it's like, okay, it's kind of obvious that you had to cut time here. It didn't really need to be in the movie, but it was fine. Like there's so much good about the movie that to me, that's a minor nitpick.
So I see what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and my cinema critic brain agrees with you.
Yeah.
But to me, that actually felt like player agency, where like they got out of there because of player choices. The DM had set up this entire like long arc of Underdark shit that they were supposed to do, and then they got the fuck out because
I agree with you there.
reasons,
It's just as an
right?
audience, we didn't get to see really
No, for sure. And
anything.
And,
They're traveling for a day in the Underdark,
Yeah.
which should be full of content, and then
Yes.
none of that was in the movie.
No, totally.
Right. The ending was a bit rushed, but again, like they're trying to fit everything they can in D&D and set up a new, movie series and introduce all these characters and also make a good movie all at once.
Yeah.
Like I don't blame them for having to make some of the cuts they obviously did.
I'm kind of hoping that the success of this leads to maybe a show or something like that, because it'd be really cool, dude. A Drizzt show, bro.
It's scary.
Yeah, it's scary.
There's so many shows that have been happening recently that are amazing and so many that have been awful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just it's risky.
And if you don't
Right.
mind, I'd like to talk about one of those shows that's both.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, Josh, but it's The Mandalorian.
What the fuck? No, get the fuck out of here, dude. This season has been excellent.
I know that you've loved this season, but listen to me, dude. This season to me, like I expressed that the first season felt like a kind of disjointed but fun D&D adventure. The second season definitely seemed more with it and together.
Yeah.
And then the third season for me feels like more extra disjointed D&D adventure.
What?
So let me explain. Let me explain before, like, listen, you're going to get upset no matter what.
Okay. That's well.
So just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
But in the second episode, right? That's where they open where they're in Mando Cave, right?
Yeah.
And big giant thing pops out of the water, takes one of the Mandos, and they've got to fight thing off, right?
Mhm.
It's a big scene. To me, it felt like kind of a whatever, but it's a big scene for that episode. Then they go to the fucking Mando planet in that episode, and their main goal there is to bathe in the waters, right, of the forge, or at the forge, to clear Mando of his sins. Okay. But they also discover that their home planet is not full of toxic gas and that they can totally return anytime to reclaim their planet, right? So then they go next episode, and for some fucking reason, every goddamn Mandalorian is in the fucking Mando cave where the giant fucking man-eating beast shows up. And in the first 5 minutes, another fucking giant man-eating beast shows up, and now they've got a new threat at the same place that they had a threat in the last episode. Now, where I have issue here is like, they decide that that's going to be their home. Okay, that's cool, whatever. I don't understand why he went to Mando planet and wanted to make that home again. So that's weird, because Mando, he clearly has like lifelong goals of going back to Mando planet, right? He's expressed so.
No.
He's expressed as
I
much.
love that you're calling it Mando.
Yeah, because I can't remember what the fuck the name of the planet is.
Mandalore.
There you go.
That's fine. Yeah.
It's Mandalore. Okay, sure. It's Mandalore. All right. So home has already been in this season. God damn it. It frustrates me on such a fucking primordial level. So home has been Mando Cave, Mandalore, Mando Cave. And then in the next fucking episode, he cuts a deal with we can get a stew going.
Oh. Yeah, Jeff something.
No.
Beef Karga?
No, oh my God. Why can't I remember?
The black guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The actor's name is Jeff something.
It's not.
It's
Predator 2. No, that's,
anyways,
no.
I know. I think I know. You know who
He's in the first fucking Predator movie.
Yeah, that's Grief Karga.
Grief.
Okay,
not
Grief Karga.
Jeff. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So Grief Karga.
Carl
The
Weathers.
magistrate.
Carl Weathers. Thank
Yeah.
you. Carl Weathers is the name that I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I was going with the character. Sorry.
Okay, so they go back to Carl Weathers and make a deal. Okay, well, let's make a home on the home planet, or on your home planet now.
It's a colony.
Okay, sure. On your colony, even though in the previous episode, he had offered him the same fucking deal as like, come live here. So now he's deciding to live in a place that he'd already decided not to live in, instead of the other place that he decided not to live in. No,
it's because
instead of the other place that they just left, which they decided to live in.
Okay.
And then at the end of of that episode where they decide to now live with Carl Weathers, now they're going to take fucking Mandalore back.
Okay. So what you're describing there is like describing the Lord of the Rings is like, so these fucking hobbits, they have a fucking gold circle and they go for a walk and there's some like scary dudes and a boat ride, but eventually they make it to this fucking like hot place with an eyeball and then they throw it in the thing and everything ends. That's like describing Lord of the Rings is what you just did. Like that's okay. So yes, there is some going back and forth, but that planet that they're on is like a Mandalorian colony planet. And like
the one with the cave, right?
The one with the cave.
Cave land.
It is because the Mandalorians had an entire system of planets. There's Concordia, there's Mandalore, there's the planet that Bo-Katan was living on in her fucking emo castle.
Okay, so I might enjoy this show if I have enjoyed every other piece of Star Wars content ever. Is what you're telling me. So otherwise, all I'm watching this for is fucking Baby Yoda.
Okay. And, okay, wow. Baby Yoda's worth it, first off.
And
you don't need to have watched every other piece of Star Wars lore. I mean, just maybe like Star Wars Rebels and most.
So you need to have watched something that had 133 episodes and something that had 78 episodes.
I have been looking through reviews by non-critics, and they are either all 5-star or they're all shit. So I think this might be a good example of where we're at. A lot of the 5-star reviews are people that know about Star Wars, and a lot of the ones that aren't, people that don't know a lot about Star Wars. If anything, if this extrapolating out to season 3 after having watched like roughly half of season 1, the show has always been disjointed. Yes. Each episode is so far removed in like emotional feel and context from the other ones that it is jarring.
Well,
I don't know how.
I disagree for season 2 because season 2 really helped. I know. So for season 2, they had a couple like Monster of the Week episodes, but for the most part, they actually had like a story arc that it was fairly tied together throughout every episode.
That's good.
So
which is why I enjoyed season 2 a lot more than the first season. Like Mando season 2 had me fucking hook, line, and sinker. Whereas like Mando season 1, while it felt disjointed and I enjoyed it, there were a couple episodes that I fucking hated. Now there was one episode that I fucking hated.
So I'm pretty sure that we're transitioning away from Din Djarin as the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this show is now about Bo-Katan.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the new episode, it came out last night. I watched it midnight last night. And without any spoilers, it is very, it is very clear. Now, I can't remember who I talked about this with, but I kind of called this very scenario like a couple weeks ago. But I'm enjoying it, but I think you're just I guess you don't know enough about Star Wars lore.
I guess I don't know enough, which I know I would put myself at above average Star Wars knowledge.
Yeah, and then that creature is a shriek hawk, and that's actually connected to the Death Watch. That's the symbol that they use. And like the big dude with the chain gun, his name is Paz Vizsla.
That's the symbol that they use?
Yeah, that was the Death Watch symbol actually in the Clone Wars and
okay, yeah. So you're not talking about the Mythotar, right?
No, I'm not talking about the Mythosaur is a symbol that any Mandalorian can use, right? And was like a symbol of the Assassin Guild for a while in Legends.
That's because it's cool.
It's because it's bitchin'. But
that part I liked.
In the Clone Wars, and I think in the Clone Wars, there's a terrorist offshoot of the Mandalorians called the Death Watch. And they have their symbol is that creepy bird thing that takes the little Mando boy. But yeah, so there's some of that there. So that is actually just a bit of fan service.
Listen, I know that there's a lot of fan service and stuff that I'm missing out on because I haven't gone too far out of the mainstream Star Wars stuff. And that, I think that's fine because you can ride around that, right? Like you can, just like the D&D movie, you can deliver fan service while delivering something that's edible by everybody.
That's what I was going to bring up.
And
find that fine line.
And right now, Mando is failing hard to do that. Like they're pleasing two crowds of people. They're pleasing the ultra hardcore Star Wars people and people that just watch that show for Baby Yoda.
What? A bit, I guess. But there's lots of other Star Wars shows that are more widely appealing. So
sure.
That like,
but I've enjoyed the Mandalorian up until recently.
Here's the question: is the newest Mandalorian falling into category A, which is it's focusing much more on extended or mainline Star Wars canon and trying to develop characters like Bo-Katan, and in doing so, alienating the audience that isn't familiar with Star Wars? Or B, is it falling apart at the seams where a non-Star Wars fan is not enjoying it because the show's becoming subpar, but there's enough deep Star Wars canon in there that people like Josh are still really enjoying it? Is the show itself faltering, or is it focusing, in your opinion, too much on the deep stuff?
I think it's a little bit of column A and column B.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it's either. I think they're definitely failing to write a good narrative that anybody could follow. Because right now it feels like I'm watching.
Here's a question, real quick,
yeah.
Andy. 3 sentences max. What is the plot of this current season? What are they trying to accomplish? Josh, what do you got for me?
A scattered people reclaiming their homeland. It's a little more than 3 words, I guess.
Okay, and what are the challenges?
3
What
sentences.
are the hurdles? What's stopping them from doing that?
Well, first of all, the simple scattered nature of the Mandalorians and their warlike status. So Mandalorians are very clannish. And
Is that explained in the show?
They do explain the
they do
multiple
explain
clans.
that the multiple clans.
Yeah.
Now again, if you it's okay, if you're so they're very clannish, and there is a great leader. Now in Legends, the great leader called Mandalore, the adjective, the mighty, Mandalore, the ultimate, Mandalore, the reclaimer, Mandalore, the so forth. Had a mask, and that's what made you Mandalore and united all the clans behind Mandalore.
Yeah.
So now it's the Darksaber.
Okay, how much of that is shown or explained in this season?
Pretty much all of it.
I'd say all of it poorly.
It becomes more clear in the last episode. You're a couple episodes behind. So yes, it's very clear that the Darksaber is a symbol of leadership, and that it's a thing that, unlike it has to be one.
That's my question: is how are they going to resolve that? Because that seems like that should be a focus of the plot.
You've already seen it happen.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. So Din Djarin is going to be the leader of the Mandalorians?
No, Bo-Katan is. She's already reclaimed. So, and this has happened in like the second episode when Din Djarin gets taken down by that robot creature. He is defeated. Then Bo-Katan shows up and defeats the enemy that defeated Din Djarin with the Darksaber.
Didn't she decline keeping the Darksaber at the end of that episode?
No, he just picked it up and strapped it back on. They never talked about it. Like she just handed it back. She just handed it back over. They never spoke about it.
Because I acknowledged that might have been her chance to reclaim the Darksaber.
Yes, I think that's who I was talking. That's who I was talking about it with was you. So yes, that was, and she just handed it back over. So in this latest episode, that very scene comes up again, and it is very relevant. And all of a sudden, Bo-Katan goes from like possible the rebel cell leader to a power player, and it's becoming it's very clear that she's becoming Mandalore.
Okay,
is what I think is happening. But
from an outsider's perspective, it sounds like this show had a chance, and it's to some degree has been doing some amount of justice to extended Star Wars canon with the Mandalores and stuff like this.
But it is also connecting it is also very much a connector from what we've seen in Clone Wars and the prequels and original trilogy stuff and all that to the sequels.
That's what I'm saying. So there's a lot of
very
stuff,
much a connector to
episodes
those.
And content in this, which is very much there for Star Wars fans. On the other hand, the show has had really good episodes that are perfectly digestible by people that know nothing about Star Wars. And now they've developed a problem where they have one of the few TV show franchises that don't suck in Star Wars is having to cater, like you were saying, to two different audiences.
Yeah.
Right. There is a limit. There is a balancing act there. Like you cannot have episode after episode where the general audience is super, super happy and the extended universe is super, super happy, those fans, because it takes a lot of work and talent to be able to do that kind of exposition and, furthering the plot revolving deep Star Wars stuff while also making a show that anyone can watch. So I don't know how much of it is actually just necessarily good or bad show telling, but it sounds like they're struggling to find. I mean, again, from what I saw in the first season, some episodes were fantastic, some were garbage. And it was just back and forth so much that I didn't know how to feel about the show. I don't know how much the third season's like that, but I imagine some of that's probably still in the DNA of the show, even this far along.
Yeah.
So
now to me, I like this season's kind of lost me. I'll probably finish it, but at the end of the day, like I'm not looking forward to the next episode.
That is completely mind boggling to me. This is, but like, I honestly feel like the strongest season, because we're really getting to learn about Mandalorian culture.
I mean, that's cool, man. Like, I'm legitimately happy for you. I'm glad.
There's been like almost zero stupid fucking scenes, like with the space Vespa with 30 fucking mirrors and shit like that. Like there's been almost none of that.
You're okay. So if you're going to go back and compare it to the Book of Boba Fett, this is still infinitely better.
Yeah.
Like,
so I am a whole different hot dog there.
Yeah.
I'm considering trying to rewatch Book of Boba Fett and see if I still dislike it as much as I did the first time.
Well, I mean,
because I would like to.
You'll probably like it. You'll probably like it more knowing what happens in later episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. The Book of Boba Fett was simply a vehicle to have more Grogu and fucking Mandalorian, like more Din Djarin.
Yeah.
Personally, if I know something's bad, if I rewatch it, I'm gonna like it even less than I did the first time around. Because at least the first time around, I didn't know what I was getting into.
That's why I'll never rewatch Halo. But, you know.
Now, there are a lot more. There's more Star Wars coming though.
Yeah. Well, and just to close off Mando.
Yes, close off Mando. Okay.
Just to close off Mando, I'm not hating what I'm watching. I'm just not enjoying myself as thoroughly as previous seasons. I honestly don't care at all about Bo-Katan, and I know you do.
No, but okay. So Mando has been the vessel for introducing the other shows and connecting the rest of before the full Disney acquisition of Star Wars to the new Disney of Star Wars. Mando has been like their vehicle for expressing that. Mm-hmm. So my prediction at the end of this season is like the big bad that's going to be like that we've discovered has been actually pulling the strings all along and fucking with people all along is we're going to get Thrawn at the end of this season. And that's going to lead right into the introduction of the Ahsoka show, because we've already seen Ahsoka show up in Mando.
Yeah.
So like Mando has been a vessel for introducing and connecting the Star Wars universe. And I think it's doing an excellent job of that. There's been some rough episodes along the way, but
I honestly, I think this would be totally fixed if they had longer episodes, more exposition, and more dialogue between characters. I think that's what the show is lacking, and I think that is
most people hate that.
I know, but I think that's an easily fixable thing, to be honest, because what I feel like the show does, and it does well, is just action scene to action scene that manages to further a plot.
I don't know. I honestly feel like there's been some fairly decent exposition from like select characters, like the Armorer.
You're right. Yes, the Armorer. Yes, everybody else, I disagree. I don't think that we've had good exposition from anybody else. In fact, they're doing one of the things that I fucking hate in TV and movies the most is not talking to each other. They're they're legitimately leaving information out from one another for seemingly no reason.
Problems. This is a Jerry Seinfeld thing.
Yeah,
where a lack of communication is causing the.
Yeah, I don't understand why Bo-Katan, knowing who she is, Mando, knowing who she is, and having helped her on occasion and having been helped by her, and especially in the first, I think it's the second episode where she saves his life from that robot creature in Mandalore. With their bond as close as it is now at this point, I don't understand why she didn't talk about her at least seeing or what she thought was the mythosaur, right? I don't understand why that wasn't brought up. And I understand they may have a reason for that. Maybe they wanted the reveal to be with the Forge Master, but that was seemingly for no reason. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of not communicating with each other for seemingly no reason. And I feel like a lot of that doesn't get resolved because that's actually how they wrote it.
It's really common in shows. It's very, very used trope.
Yeah, and I think that's just I think that's poor writing.
The mythosaur is an extinct creature,
Yeah.
like ancient creature of Mandalore, kind of like if the Flintstones were real for our past and we had dinosaurs that we rode and shit, that'd be like a fucking mythosaur.
But if anybody's gonna believe it, isn't it Din Djarin who has a force sensitive companion who's seen like the edges of the galaxy that other people haven't?
I don't know, maybe she doesn't even believe it herself, and it's in a moment of vulnerability with the armor that she fucking discusses it. I don't know.
That's possible. It just feels really disjointed in that way. Like, for whatever reason, people don't discuss their plans. People don't discuss things like going forward and what their intentions are.
It's a bunch of emotionally closed off fucking murderers,
but they're also masterful tacticians, and you would think that all information is good information.
Yeah, I mean,
okay,
that bothers me, dude. That bothers me to my core. Like
you're like picking on Star Wars on that. Like Nick said, dude, that's a problem in a lot of writing and a lot of shows. So I feel like
I think that's a problem in a lot of
that doesn't excuse the Mandalorian.
Sure.
Just because a lot of shows are jumping off a bridge doesn't mean it's okay for Mando too.
So the show as a vessel for the things that you're looking forward to, that's awesome. Great. Then it seems like they're doing a good job at that because you're excited about that. But for me, when I'm watching episode to episode, in the meantime, what we're getting in filler is insubstantial and really poorly written.
But there's also just like some really cool, awesome moments for the actor Ahmad Best. Like he got to be, because he was Jar Jar in the prequels, and much like that kid who played Anakin, he got hate directed at him personally because people didn't like the characters, right? Yeah. Now, that's like the same thing. Like if I had seen Return of the Jedi when I was 14, like I did when I saw Phantom Menace, I would have hated those fucking Ewoks. I'd have fucking hated them. Yeah. But because I saw it when I was 7 years old, I love the Ewoks. Yeah. I do not like Jar Jar. But you know who I didn't blame for not liking Jar Jar? Ahmad Best. I didn't blame him. Yeah. Like I didn't, people. Yeah, he
that's the way he was written, and he probably. He delivered a kooky character well.
The guy literally considered, he talked about it, considered suicide, not acting ever again on the sense. And
that's because the Star Wars fan base is fucking toxic as shit.
Yeah, the one thing that ruins Star Wars is Star Wars fans. Let me tell you.
If you want a really good dissertation on how cancel culture works, I got a video for you. I can show you.
And him getting to come back as Kelleran Beck, like a badass fucking Jedi master, and getting just a fucking cool scene.
Yeah, that's baller.
Dude, it was baller as fuck. That scene was awesome. So dude, there's been a lot of cool shit. There's enough there's enough cool shit.
Totally, you're right. But that does not make a good show to a person that doesn't recognize that guy.
All right. I'll wrap this up. This show had Bill Burr's scene with his PTSD dealing with the officer when he was with Mando in that super tense scene. It also had a mild thriller escape scene where they were on a lava river with a boat piloted by a Styx robot. The show has good and bad parts to it, and it's
You
all
just
over
listed
the,
two good things.
Some of us like a more substantial meal than cotton candy taken out of the bottom of the Walmart trash can.
Oh, dude, that was an awesome scene. The fucking IG-88.
You wanna get into this?
Oh my god,
Dude,
come on.
do you remember?
enjoy it.
Do you remember the
Okay.
time Josh showed up with a trash bag full of popcorn?
I do.
So, okay, was the
Your
lava
convers-
boat great? Should it have been something
Okay.
else for a
Go
trench run
rewatch
besides the lava boat?
Go
Sure.
watch the episode before that one and the emotional narrative arc they're leading up to. And the next episode opens up with a comedy bit between two stormtroopers, kills all of the fucking tension that the previous episode has, and goes on to be a goofy, funny episode. That's what we're talking about, disjunction.
Okay, that's
this
fair.
show is a vessel for ideas in the same way that all that was a sketch show. Like sometimes you get like great skits and other times you get really bad ones. And it's just like this kind of grab bag of things that when you look at it as a show as an entirety, it's weird.
I feel like the disjunction of the first season isn't really there after. The
I feel that's
second.
That could be
very
fair,
present in the third
But
one.
he also says it is. So until such time that our viewers watch it, they will have to make up their minds themselves.
Star Wars fans, get him. Let Andy, let him know. We have voicemail. Leave us some about how
Midichlorians.
wrong he is on the Mandalorian.
Midichlorians.
Okay, whoa. You can't blame Disney for fucking midichlorians, okay? That's not Disney's fault. That's George Lucas all the way.
If you're gonna
baby.
keep talking, I'll keep this up.
Yeah.
the fucking
We'll keep- this will be the longest
we'll kill
episode
the
of anything
Imperials
ever.
with the power of love. Let's make out before we get blown up. Right, that'll save us. How many times are people gonna get stabbed in the gut with a fucking lightsaber and then come back 40 minutes later?
Also, you know what fucking
Dude, how
Disney
pissed is
did?
Qui-Gon?
Disney did Leia.
Qui-Gon right now.
He's like, I died for this.
Josh, Disney did Leia.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah. Disney did episode 8.
Yeah, it was rough.
Just saying.
At the end of the day, there's always
We should just let her die. out
Someone's
in
gonna buy
space
Disney.
gracefully. There's
Someone's
nothing-
gonna
there's-
buy Disney. Disney's
And
gonna
we're gonna reboot
No.
Star Wars.
Disney's
again.
gonna buy everything.
No,
Disney's gonna
nobody's-
rebuy themselves. In
100%.
some weird hostile takeover of their own
Disney
company.
Probably.
Disney just proved that they're more powerful than the elected
Yeah.
leader
They're-
of Florida.
They're more
A
powerful
lot
than
of
Florida.
sci-fi stories start like this, by the way.
Yeah, totally.
This is the precursor to a lot of cyberpunk novels.
All right, we're not gonna do a smooth wrap up. Let's fucking go.